My daughter was diagnosed at age 15 when she was in secondary 3. I was diagnosed a year later at the age of 50. I know that myself as a parent, those 5 years when I suspected but didn't get my daughter diagnosed, there was a lot of hurt that she probably felt from us as parents when we didn't understand what was going on.
I didn't even realize my son had ADHD. He was scolded many a times in school because he said what he saw, and as an ADHD child, what you see is different from what others see. He shared with me very much later. He said that when he was P5, P6, teachers were negatively enforcing that we were the worst class and we're never going to make it. He was undergoing through so much stress that he felt suicidal. And that broke my heart, right? I was like absolutely shocked.
It was pretty difficult. I just couldn't understand why I was struggling. So I thought oh, maybe it's a me problem. Maybe it's oh, I'm a bad person. These are my issues. Oh, you have so much potential, but you don't apply yourself or something similar. I always heard that from a lot of teachers, and I thought why can't I apply myself? Was I just stupid or something? Or am I just slow?
In the middle of Sec 3, the teacher called me and sort of said, "Mrs. Chang, your daughter's in danger of being retained a year if she doesn't pull her grades up." We thought it was just an issue of being lazy or being unmotivated. Those are things that I wish that we could reverse, because all these do add up and they affect the person in their self-esteem and in how they see themselves, how they see the world.
He was diagnosed when he was about 10. When we shared it with him, he was actually very shocked. He was actually quiet for a few days, and the first thing he said to me was, "Mom, why can't I be normal like everyone else?" That was very much piercing right through my heart, because it was here you have a child so young thinking that he was so different from others and being judged. And I said, "You know what, son, it doesn't matter how different you are, because you are unique. Celebrate your uniqueness, celebrate your strengths."
I also have depression and anxiety, and I also take medication for that. It is kind of scary because you just feel pretty hopeless, nothing has meaning or whatever. And then if you don't know what's going on, you can kind of feel like you're going crazy.
When he was about Sec 3, we got the reassessment done. We noticed his mental stamina was very, very short. So we decided at that point in time to medicate him. He was really angry with me, right? He said, "Which mother puts her own child on drugs? It's not drugs for you, it really is medication."
After getting diagnosed, I was like, oh, okay, so it's not all me. And then it was kind of easier to find ways to work around it. And now I'm on medication, so it's easier to cope.
When I was first diagnosed with ADHD, I was a little bit bemused. It wasn't a huge surprise. Everything seemed to make sense. My relationship with my husband. In the past, we had a lot of conflicts and tension. I was chronically late for everything. The timer is if I need to work, right? So this is a spinning ring. I was introduced to it by my friend. Help yourself when you're feeling too distracted by other things. Okay, 9:30 should be okay. I tend to be hyperactive, so I pack a lot of things into my schedule. And because of that, I tend to drag my family along with me too.
I think one time was having a panic attack or something.
I remember, but that was over text.
I texted her, I was like, "I'm having a panic attack, I need your help." And then she was like, "What can I do?" I just said "Tell me about your day." And she did, and it was really helpful because it distracted me, and then after a while I started to calm down, and that was quite meaningful for me.
I will not say things like, "Oh, calm down, it's going to be fine eventually." I usually won't say things like that because I know that doesn't help, and instead be understanding, and if she isn't able to do something, I'm fine with it, I will help her. Or I will try to distract her from that so that it keeps her out of the spiral.
Be patient with your friends who have ADHD because our brains work differently from you. Sometimes what we do seems very strange, or to some people it's lazy. It's not, it just means that we need a little bit of extra time. So being patient and being compassionate and being kind will really help.
There's such a lot of stigma about ADHD and there's so many misconceptions about it. So that's why I stand up and do something about this. The mission of Unlocking ADHD is to empower ADHDers and their families to live life to the fullest. We wanted to give hope to other people in the community out there that it is possible with a diagnosis and assessment and management to change your future. And the second reason why we started it was because there was a gap in information about ADHD in Singapore. In less than 3 years after Alyssa was diagnosed with ADHD, now what I see in her is someone that's grown a lot, who's very resilient. She had a lot of challenges in the last couple of years, more than most people would face. And yet she has managed to meet them with calmness and confidence. She basically has risen above her circumstances. I'm really, really proud of her.
With Unlocking ADHD, we want to develop a coaching and training arm for not just parents itself, but also for youths and ADHDers. It's very important for you to look after yourself first because it can be very draining. A lot of parents blame themselves, right? And there will be moments where you would say that you haven't done enough. Without having that self-care and self-compassion, you will not be able to do more for your child. I'm still an Asian mom after all. No matter how open I am, it's normal, okay? But I've come to accept that I'm enough as a mom. I wouldn't trade him for anyone else because he's as special as who he is.
I started volunteering at Unlocking ADHD because, I want to help more people like her and to get people around them to have more awareness about this condition and maybe reduce the stigma on it.
A lot of these mental health conditions make you feel very isolated and very alone, and then you start to have suicidal thoughts. It was because of places like social media that I started to feel less alone, and it was very, very helpful in making me feel better, and I want to give the same to other people.
When we harness the energy in a productive and healthy way, people can do amazing things. But it could also go the other way, which is people committing crimes. With that same energy, if we can direct it to something that would benefit the individuals, their family and society, why not?